Good morning and welcome to the porch. This broadcast is a broadcast dealing with different subjects, and all these subjects are designed to basically make people's lives better, give information that'll help people's lives, and free people up to think and do and accomplish the things that they want to do in life. Now, having said that, this morning we're going to be approaching a subject that's probably one of the most important subjects that you'll ever hear, and it's the subject on how to control your thoughts. Now, there's three things that we need to know when it comes to controlling our thoughts, and I'm going to read those to you. As a general rule, I don't always make notes, but today I do have a few notes just so I can remember things, so just bear with me. Number one, a thought falls under the jurisdiction of our free will. Number two, our thoughts are who we are. And number three, we must decide who it is we want to be as a human being and for the world around us and our families and all of those things. So let me elaborate first on the ideal that we have free will. We have the ability to choose our thoughts. I'm not going to go too much farther right now with that, and I'll tie all this stuff together and mix it together as we go through, because it all has to go together. Now, for years I've been studying the religious books, various different religions, Stoic philosophy, some poetry, and music. Now, I'm not an expert on any one of these things, but I've been studying them, and they seem to all have a message in them. And the interesting thing about the ideal that we are what we think is something that most everybody in every religion, Stoic philosophy, poetry, and all those things, everybody has seemed to come to the conclusion that is true. I personally believe it is. There's no biblical scripture, and that scripture says something to the effect, whatever a man thinks, that's what he'll be. Now, I know that I didn't quote that King James scripture, but you get the gist of the idea. Now, having said that, the other part that we mentioned earlier was this. You have to decide what it is you want to be. Now, if you want to be a good person, say you want to be a songwriter and do things that'll help people, write songs that'll help and encourage people and give and really have a positive message to it, you have to start thinking that way. Now, if you want to be a murderer, and I don't know that anybody just jumps up and decides to be that, but if your thinking is murderous all the time, your whole life is consumed with people around you that talk about killing other people, movies and things like that show the murder and killing of people all the time, video games that show murder and killing all the time, sooner or later your mind gets messed up, and sometimes you can turn to that and make that an action in your life. Now, not everybody does that, but there is a small percentage of people that actually will go that far. Most people, good sense will get a hold of them, and they'll turn away from it and start thinking something different than that. But there's some people, when that thought comes, they just keep thinking it and going with it, and eventually do something horrible to other people. But let's get on the positive side of this, because I don't much like the negative side of it. We mention it because it exists, but that's not what we want to focus on. Let's take the thought that we want to be a very good person. We want to be a help and a blessing to other people. We want to leave the world a better place than we found it. We want to help people grow and be successful in every area of their life, not just financial success. Everybody jumps to that, but there's more to success than that by a long shot. But we won't go down that. That is a subject for another day, so we won't go down there right now. But we've decided we're going to be a good person. Well, how do we do that? Well, we start changing the way we think. Now, we're going to touch on just a little bit more of the negative for a few seconds here, but not very long. Say somebody makes us angry, and we decide just to dwell on that and dwell on that. And have you ever seen that happen to people that dwell on it until finally they see that person that just explode on them and just, I mean, say all kinds of terrible things? And maybe that's happened to you. Maybe you've done that. Anyway, that comes because the thinking is not brought under control. Now, that thinking, when I use the term, it's under your jurisdiction of your will. It is. Nobody can tell you how to think. Nobody can tell you what you should look at or read or anything like that. That's up to you. That's entirely up to you. So how you think, that's your deal. And you need to know that. And if you know that, you can start moving forward with building the kind of person you want to be. Now, in Stoic philosophy and in religious philosophies, in a lot of cases, the ideal is to become a better person, become a person that's more valuable to the people around, somebody that people love, and they like seeing you come around. So when you start thinking about it, well, what if I have a thought that's contrary to me being a good person? Well, that's a good question. So here's the answer to that right there is the answer is if that thought comes into your mind, it doesn't belong to you. Now, this is a real mystery and a real key to success in this area. If you understand that that is not your thought, and by your will you reject that as not your thought, and you replace it with something that's good, then the good things you're thinking will align with your goal of being a good person. The bad thoughts will align and destroy the goals you have of being a good person. And it's your will that decides which direction you're going to go. Now, a lot of people may say, well, yeah, Paul, but I can't help my thoughts. Oh, I beg to differ. You can. Does it take some work? Absolutely. Sometimes it's pretty hard. But you know what? Hard things in life are usually the best things when you succeed in them. So you say, well, how would I change my thought process? Well, say that you've decided to be a good person and somebody cuts you off in traffic. There's a good place to have an opportunity to decide whether you're going to be a good person or not. And your thoughts are, well, I hope that rascal runs into that telephone pole or cops get him or something like that. Or you can, that's one thought. You can change that thought. Now that thought, that first thought's going to probably be the first one that comes to most people's mind, but that you replace it like this. You think, that is not my thought. It doesn't align with my goal of being a good person. So here's where I'm at. I'm hoping that if that guy's distracted by a worry or a concern in their life, that they can get that off their life before they get hurt or hurt somebody. That's the difference in the thought process. And again, let's go back to, what was that first thought yours? Well, it's only yours if you accept it. If you reject it, it is not your thought. If you accept it and it aligns with or disaligns with your goal in life, then that's your fault because you accept it, because it don't belong to you, because you have decided, I want to be a good person. Any thought that fights or wars against that goal in life is not your thought. You don't have to accept it. And if you reject that thought, you will start to change. Now, people sometimes I think, well, golly, that's going to take a while. It is. I'd like to tell you there's an easy answer to all this stuff, but there's really not. It's all hard work. But the question is this right here. Whenever somebody is hurting and you've accomplished the goal of being a good person. Now, once you accomplish it, you got to keep fighting for it. You got to keep doing it. It just seems to slide backwards. But somebody's hurting, and they're like, "Boy, I remember old Bob or Alan or Mary or whoever you are," and they call you up. And here's why they call you up: because you had a positive attitude. You've always had empathy on them when they needed it. And I'm not talking about being a garbage dump for people. That's another subject we're going to talk about sometime down the line. But I'm talking about they call you genuinely just need somebody with wisdom. And the goal of being a good person, you're going to have to change a lot of your thoughts to thoughts of wisdom, get instruction. And you're able to give them just a little of something that gives them direction in life. There's what it's about, guys, ladies. It's about being able to help those around you. And you've given a part of your life learning to be a good person and learning to have a positive attitude. And I'm talking about these things in balance. Now, if this person calls you and they've done a bunch of crazy things in their life, sometimes you have to talk to them with a lot of empathy, a lot of consideration, and love. And tell you, if you got financial problems because you drink too much or you gamble, they just illustrations. You may have to say you're going to have to turn around with this. Matter of fact, you can use what we're talking about today. You got to change their thoughts, but you give them the good answers and the right answers and stuff that'll help them. What is that really worth? Now, look here, guys. You can't do that unless you get you changed first. Everybody wants to change the world. I have to laugh, and I've been down that road too. I thank the good Lord in heaven the day that I understood that the only person I really could change is me. Now, once I changed me, that new person had a far better chance of helping change other people's lives because I came from a different place in my life. I came from a place that thought differently, sees things differently, have a whole different perspective. Now, I know that we could talk all day on this subject right here, but just remember this. Figure out what you want to be in life. And if you're not that, then you better start working on what we're talking about. Figure out ways you can input into your mind the right things and think about the right things and start changing that. And remember, whenever you look at it, say it ain't changing, it's your will. It's under the jurisdiction of your free will. Exercise that. Nobody can do it for you. And if you'll do it, you'll be the best friend anybody can ever have, the best brother, the best sister, the best mother, father, whatever it may be. Be the best you can be. Don't worry so much about changing the world. Change you, and then you can see clearly to change others. That takes me to, or brings me to another religious thing out of the Bible that I have read numerous times over the years, and that is, and again, I'm probably not going to quote this real good, but I'll do the best I can. It's how can you get the splinter out of your brother's eye when you've got a beam in your own eye? That kind of fits this, doesn't it? Well, let's talk about one day getting that beam out of our eye. Let's work on that. All right, guys, I appreciate very much you guys listening to me, and we hope to get to do more of these as we go along. Would appreciate your feedback because your comments and stuff help me grow, help me learn stuff. I don't know it all. Sometimes I just throw things out there so I can get people talking about them and I can learn from them. So having said that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off right now, and I do appreciate it. God bless.